Meowdy y'all, it's the Cutting Corner podcast hosted by your resident cowboy Keo, where we talk about video editing tips, tricks, and tactics to stay up to date in the competitive content creation world. Today with me, I have a great friend and talented video producer, Tizen, editor of the Just Roll With It D&D podcast and short form content editor for Trash Taste. Welcome to the show, man.
Keo, my man, please. You can call me Ben. Please.
Oh, okay, Ben. Sure. We've been friends long enough. I think it's fine. We can just dive right into this. We have so much that we can talk about just because of our personal history with each other. But if you'd allow me to just go ahead and jump in, if that's cool.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, sorry. Folks, we're gonna have to catch you sometime else, I guess, because Tizen does not want any part of it here.
Dude, this is gonna be an awesome episode to record, or to edit, I mean. Oh my god.
Oh, true. Yeah.
It's only like 2 minutes.
It's crazy how the editor for the podcast is now on the podcast themselves. It's weird how that works, right? Nepotism.
Yeah, I know, right? Because by this point, when this episode goes live, 4 episodes I've edited will be live by this point?
That sounds right. Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
All right. Heck yeah. Well, Tizen, your portfolio has expanded fairly heavily in the last several years. And I really would like for you to share a few stories that you have up your sleeve, hopefully, on how your current lineup came into fruition.
Well, I mean, I was a fairly lucky individual when it comes to this kind of stuff, you know, especially with like other editors in the community. I could think of a few people that like we know that we want to have, like, you know, that you want to have on the podcast at some point that have a similar story where it's like they knew a content creator, you know, or something of that sort before that they became one. And I had a very similar story with a good friend, Eddie, and with that I was able to you know, not use him as a stepping stone. I still talk to him, love him, but because of his help, he was a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to meet so many others and get many networking, you know, opportunities.
Yeah, networking's half the battle.
Yeah. And one of the first major clients that I ever got to land through Eddie was Joe Cat. Very weird connection, because Joe Cat and Eddie never really interacted with each other until I started editing for both of them.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. For reference, Eddie being Lieutenant Eddie. Really cool guy.
Shout out Lieutenant Eddie.
Yeah, I'll talk about it more about him later. But Joe, we met through a common mutual friend of Shenpai. Really cool content creator. Used to do a lot of Overwatch stuff. Now really does a lot of like Final Fantasy and all that, like Final Fantasy Online. But because of her, I met Joe Cat because Joe Cat was looking for somebody to edit, you know, one of his like big playthroughs of Hollow Knight, which probably was like, I don't know, a 60 to 80 hour like Let's Play.
Big job.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was a big job that I did over the course of like multiple months. You know, it was like taking 5-hour VODs and cutting them down to an hour, you know, something digestible for people to, you know, watch in a reasonable amount of time instead of 60 to 80 hours like I did. Probably double.
Exactly. Yeah, Twitch frogs are just built different versus the YouTube frogs we cater to.
Dude. And eventually I would actually work with Joe Cat again at some point, you know, later down the line with D&D stuff. You know, he would come to me because of later clients I would eventually get and be like, hey, can you help with this? And I was like, yeah. So I would consider Joe Cat like my first major client.
Okay, awesome.
Nice, notable, big D&D, what's the word? Presence, I guess?
Sure.
And speaking of D&D, the next major client that I actually got eventually, I worked with like a bunch of other smaller creators along the way. In between. You know. Yeah, but the next major one would actually be D&D podcast that you mentioned earlier, Just Roll With It.
Yeah.
Which, if it wasn't for you, and more so Scott Posts, the editor for the Chuckle Sandwich podcast currently, we love Scott.
We love Scott.
I was able to get in connection with Slimesicle and get that job. And it was my first time ever editing not only a podcast, but also D&D content by that point. And whoa, Nilly.
Yeah, so you were really thrown into the fire there with the double whammy.
Because when Scott, like, you know, said, like, oh, you know, Charlie's looking for an editor, that's all he said. And I was like, oh, for, like, his gaming channel. You know, he wants to get to, like, a daily, you know, upload on his second channel or something. You know, that makes sense. And then when Charlie reached out to me, he's like, oh, hey, I heard you're interested in editing the podcast. And I was like,
A podcast?
A podcast? But, you know, look, working with Slimesicle at that point, he would be the biggest client at that moment that I've ever worked with. So I was just like, hell yeah, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Didn't want to pass up the opportunity, of course.
Yeah. I'll also touch upon like a bunch of other people I've worked with because I've worked with a lot, like
Sure.
a lot of people that I sort of just like jumped around. Because I started off with Lieutenant Eddie, good friend, then Joe Cat, and eventually I would work for Jameski, who's probably a pretty notable person. I feel like a lot of people would know Jameski. Very cool content creator who edits a lot of stuff himself, I'm pretty sure. A lot of stuff on his like main channel
Hmm.
he does. And then I worked for a lot of people in like I wouldn't say like the Minecraft community. I don't know what you would categorize them now. They would technically fall under like the SMP Live umbrella, but like, we don't talk about SMP Live.
You can just say the Minecraft sphere because
Yeah.
community implies like it's a specific group, but the sphere
Yeah.
really encompasses everything, I think.
Yeah, because I worked for people like Josh, Jawsh, Josh.
Hmm.
Love him. He was awesome to work with, and I'm still on his editing team. I just don't really do much at the moment.
Hmm.
I've worked with Altrive, and I've worked with Krinios. They were all very awesome to work with, but very brief because eventually I would just just roll with it very shortly after. And I've done a
Okay.
lot of like one-off commissions as well for a bunch of different people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean that's it. Like it's kind of weird editing podcast stuff, especially coming from like doing a bunch of stream highlights essentially and just like subtitling work.
Right. You kind of slowly moved into being a bit of a specialist with podcasts, funny enough, because obviously working with Just Roll With It for as long as you have, and myself now hiring you on, I feel like you've morphed into a bit of a podcast editor, so to speak, even though you're, a jack of all trades, master of them all, in my opinion. But
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
obviously because you're familiar more so with podcasts and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't do anything else now, like you do other types of content like TikToks and YouTube shorts. And of course, we can't talk about your content with TikToks and YouTube shorts without talking about fill in the blank here, Ben.
Yeah.
Trash taste.
Yeah, dude, that's the
Yeah.
guys. Yeah. Oh my god. How could I forget? Oh my
So,
god.
for those unfamiliar with Trash Taste, they are an otaku culture podcast, so to speak, hosted by three Tokyo-based content creators, that being the Anime Man, Giguk, and Sea Dog VA. And their offices are located, obviously on the other side of the globe, right? What was the process like landing a position like that? And what's it like keeping up with that sort of clientele day to day? Because that's super polarizing.
The short of it, it's hard talking to people when you live in New York and they live in Japan. It is a 14-hour time difference.
Yeah.
But I'm also a night owl, so I'm awake when they're getting awake, so it works out. But the longer of it is very good friend of mine and yours too, Rad Stads,
Rad stats.
the current TikTok editor for the Yard podcast and for Ludwig, along with a couple of other people in like the Smash community. Super awesome dude.
Amazing guy.
He actually reached out to me and a few other editors within like a small sphere, just going like, "Hey, Lud said that Trash Taste were looking for a TikTok editor, and I can't take the job. Any of you guys interested?"
Mhm.
And at that point, I'd actually started listening to Trash Taste like 4 months prior, because
Mhm.
Trash Taste is still a fairly new podcast, similar to the Yard. Like they've only been around now for 2 years
Right.
compared to other podcasts, like say like the official podcast or the Rooster Teeth podcast or other gaming ones, I
Right.
guess.
Still relatively new blood.
Yeah, they're still really new. But I was like, oh, dude, hell yeah. I mean, I love Giguk's content. I love Connor, Sea Dog VA's content. I'll put my hat in the ring. I even told Rad, I'm like, hey, I know there's other people who need the opportunity better because obviously at the time I was working for Just Roll With It. So I was like, hey, just put me on the bottom of the priority list.
Right. I'll just give it a shot and see what happens. Right.
And that motherfucker goes and puts me on the top of the list. And I'm
Oh
just
my
like,
god.
what are you doing? What are you doing? There's other people who need this job. And he's like, well, yeah, but like you've actually ran a TikTok before, which, for context, Just Roll With It had a TikTok and Shorts channel for about 3 months that I ran. The TikTok was semi-successful for the size of the podcast. Shorts channel was less than stellar, I will admit.
That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, but because of that experience, compared to other editors within the little sphere, I was like top priority.
Mhm.
And I'm listening to the Trash Taste podcast one day, and I look at my phone and I see somebody go, "Hey, it's Connor," reaching out to you, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, "What is this, Connor01? What?"
Yeah, yeah. Is this our editor friend, Connor01?
Yeah, editor friend. And then I look at it, and it's fucking Dog VA going like, "Hey, I heard from Ludwig that you were looking to edit for Trash Taste." I have never talked to Ludwig in my life.
That's hilarious. So yeah, it was just phone tag essentially.
Well, it's not just phone tag, but like, if I didn't know Rad, I wouldn't have gotten that job.
Right, right. I just mean more so like Rad spoke to Lud spoke to Dog spoke to you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh my god. Yeah, but working with them though, going back to your original question, working with them, I mean, it's not that bad. Like, eventually started working with Dog VA very recently as of this recording. Like, I've only been working with him like officially for like a week as of recording this, but by the time this comes out, it'll be like what, a month or a little bit more.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
It's weird. Obviously, you got to account for that 14-hour difference for me. And sometimes they're pretty responsive. I'll be like, "Hey, this." The amount of times I've sent like a batch to them, and then they're like, is a lot. The joke there is that I didn't say anything.
Okay, making sure.
Because I will post it and be like, "Hey guys, I know I signed a contract." By the way, that was my first time ever signing a contract, was with Trash Taste, which was
okay.
So weird.
Was it intimidating writing your name down like that for the first time?
Yes, because I also didn't know how Adobe Acrobat worked, so I struggled for 15 minutes to do my signature.
Oh. Just sign here.
It's a little stamp I could just do now.
That's
I could
great.
just go boop. Anyway, but like in the contract, it's like, "Hey, you got to get the videos at this time, at this day, every week." And I do it,
blah, blah.
and then they don't respond, and I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I guess I'll just upload it, and you know what? They're happy.
Yeah, no complaints thus far, so we're doing something right.
Hey man, the TikTok in particular, we're catching up to the yard. We're catching up.
Hey, watch out, boys.
Over the course of 3 months, we have like 66K
on
it. I mean, that's pretty good.
That is actually pretty banger for what it is.
To be fair, I would not have been able to figure out what the fuck to do without Rad. Rad gave me a lot of advice on what to do for it.
Yeah, shout out Rad, man. He's awesome.
Because holy fuck, TikTok and YouTube Shorts especially are fucking weird. They're fucking weird, man.
I mean, they're pretty much like the polar opposite of what we're used to editing, because we're not having to reach for a certain watch time in terms of, okay, let's make sure it's 8 minutes, or let's make sure the retention lasts XYZ amount of time. It's very different. The rules are very different on TikTok and YouTube Shorts.
It's almost like the opposite.
Like
very opposite, where it's like, instead of getting to a certain time thing, it's like, "Oh, we got to hit the 8-minute mark." It's like, "Nah, man, make that as short as possible. Make it like fucking 5 seconds."
Right. We want this to loop. Yeah, exactly. We need 200% retention, meaning terms of YouTube Shorts and TikTok, that it was looped at least twice. So
yeah.
Can you go in to how that works a little bit in terms of like how different it is on the technical side of editing versus what, a standard YouTube content creator editor would go through?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I got a preface. Rad Stads, I keep saying his name. Love him to death. He taught me like everything that I know, and if you ever have him on, you should, because he's awesome and he's so fun to talk to. But he also has a lot of good insight on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, which is especially his favorite thing to say is that it's just the fucking Wild West,
Yeah. It is the Wild West, to be honest.
Shit just happens. It's very much like that time in YouTube meta where like it just kept shifting for like, when was it? It was like a couple of years ago on YouTube where like the meta just kept like shifting.
No one knew where it was going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, like every like 3 months or something, and you were just like, "Oh, all right." Now it's like stabilized, but like for TikTok and YouTube Shorts especially, if it still fluctuates. Like,
Right. Yeah.
thankfully for me, because I'm working with Trash Taste, which is a pretty well established, podcast at this point. Like
Mhm.
they've only been doing it for 2 years, but like the fan base is so large, They're like one of the
Sure.
bigger podcasts on YouTube. You could compare them to like The Yard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Love The Yard, but viewer count wise, like the fucking Trash Taste podcast always pulls in like what, 1 to 2 million views per episode.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's like a
it's really consistent too, which is surprising for podcasts.
exactly. It's like, what the fuck? So I feel like, at least for the TikTok, because it was like prime real estate, doing
Yeah, of
that
course.
was like very easy to like get into. Obviously, like there was still a lot of work. I will never forget the amount of times I'm like, guys, fellas, you have to say something on your stream, on After Dark, or you gotta say something in a episode. Like I've been working for them for 3 months now.
Mhm.
They finally mentioned in an episode of the podcast that they have a shorts and a TikTok.
Okay,
They
3 months.
finally did. Took
And
three
it's
months, but they
weekly,
did
no?
it. It is indeed weekly.
That's 12 opportunities.
It's a month in advance recording, but like still, like,
Sure.
and the one TikTok they mentioned is literally the first TikTok ever posted.
That's hilarious. Oh my
Out
god.
of probably, what is it, the 100+ TikToks there are right now?
Mhm.
So I'm just like, all right, I mean,
Yeah, well,
whatever.
I'd imagine for them, especially because like they're not only working with the podcast, but like on their own content as well, right? I have to imagine that like the shorts and the TikToks are like kind of a set it and forget it sort of thing. And no matter like how important it is to the growth of the podcast itself, it is still something that is easily forgettable in the sense of like it's on the back burner and you just sort of let it slip and forget and like, oh right, that's also important. But you've got two other huge plates in front of you, so I understand it being difficult to keep up with them in terms of what you were going on about in
Yeah.
the review process and everything.
Also, bro, I haven't really talked about it. Shorts channels are fucking weird. Like, I know Sam Woodhull, who you've had on previously on the podcast.
Hmm.
He talked a lot about shorts and stuff,
Hmm.
and I agree with a lot with what he said. Like it's about like that viewer attention stuff, but boy howdy, you I I don't know how much I agree with like it being like not formulaic, but like you can like determine what you can do, because sometimes you just post like a short and it's like the same as like the short from last week and it just fucking pops off for no reason, or
Hmm.
like it just does dog, like dog shit, and it's just like, why? What is the difference between these two? They're like relatively the same length. They have
Hmm.
the same level of editing, which by the way, for YouTube Shorts, this is a thing I also agree with Sam. The amount of editing you put in doesn't really matter. You can put in pretty low effort, cuz like it really doesn't, as long like if the person is engaged, they're engaged, unless you're going insane on the edits.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
Engagement.
unless you're going insane on the edits, like there isn't really a point. And I've noticed that through like all the different shorts and TikToks that I've done for Trash Taste.
Right. I mean, that's just time you can allocate elsewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like I know for like TikTok and for TikTok it's like more consistent. Like the views are pretty consistent. Sometimes they'll do better, sometimes they'll do worse, but like it's usually like within a range. For YouTube, it's so fucking weird. Like I know like 2 weeks ago from when we're recording this, I had like the worst week of shorts. Like the channel was like 40K subs and we would get like barely 2K views on a short for like a week straight.
Hmm.
Then the next week, right after that, we had the best week on the channel ever. Every single video was getting like 50K views on the first day. And then,
So it can feel a bit like a lottery pull.
and I'm just like, what's the difference? And it's not
Yeah.
even like a matter of like changing the title, because that does work sometimes, just like
Hmm.
a normal YouTube video. But like that's the most you could do. You can't really do thumbnails because
Right. Yeah.
shorts don't really have thumbnails,
Right.
because
They don't
you're
operate that way.
scrolling through. Yeah, you're scrolling through on that. So like once you post like a short or especially a TikTok, it's out there. You
You're at the mercy of the gods. Yeah.
you throw it at the wind and you learn from it. You can't really
Right.
like you can't really do a repair. To bring up something else that I do is I also work for Slimesicle, as well as his D&D podcast. I do a lot of secondary editing for his channel, and I run a VODs channel for him. Where I edit an intro for each VOD, and I make the thumbnail, I make the title, I do all the tagging, just like with the shorts, but like, it's a bit more.
Right.
And with that, I can recover a video if it's doing poorly. If a VOD's like doing bad, I could go, okay, let me change the thumbnail, or oh, let me change the title, or change the tags, or
There's
change
things you
something
can
else.
do, right?
There's things I can do to salvage. A short or a TikTok, it's kind of just out there, and you can't do anything about it really. That's just how it is.
Right, you're at its mercy practically. Yeah.
Especially for YouTube, at least it feels like, And it's insane how well shorts can do, and then like you get no not reward, but like no feedback really, because
Oh,
like
like
there's like
it's not reflected in your statistics or the channel statistics.
yeah, because like the channel is at like we just hit 50K today, which is
Oh,
awesome.
congratulations. Oh yeah.
I wish we could have hit it like earlier, like the TikTok, but
Sure.
I digress. But the channel has over 12 million views.
So people are definitely seeing it.
Right.
Right.
Like, which I know for like a normal YouTube channel of like the same size, they might have like, what, 2 million views if they're consistently uploading or something, right? Or like maybe even like 5. It's just insane how different it is compared to just normal YouTube content. It's,
Right.
it's,
I don't think it's going to settle down in for like another few years to several years from now, just because they're still trying to figure out monetization on shorts. So TikTok's one thing, YouTube Shorts is another beast. They operate similarly, but they are both as equally unpredictable. And I think that it's still going to be quote unquote the Wild West for a few more years.
oh, yeah.
So I think the more that you can get yourself comfortable with the algorithm being as unpredictable as it is, the better you'll be for the future, because who knows what is going to be required of YouTube Shorts and TikTok editors 5 years from now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think YouTube Shorts will ever get to the point of monetization. I don't think so. I don't think they'll ever reach that same level as like say like normal YouTube videos.
Not the same level, no. I think they will work out a monetization method, but I don't think it's going to nearly scratch what normal quote unquote YouTube does by any means.
I think it will just continue to be either just short form content that people make, like because they just want to make like a little short form content. And something that like I think Sam said something in his episode. I'm sorry for bringing up Sam. Love Sam. Very,
Sorry. I
very
was to say, why are you
insightful.
sorry? So we love Sam. We
I
love
don't know.
Sam.
Well, because like there's just things that like I don't fully agree with, which is that
Oh,
I
sure.
know for Trash Taste in particular, and when I was doing it for Just Roll with It, they saw TikToks and they saw YouTube Shorts more so as like advertisement rather than like its own content. Like they're not making original
Right, right. Not exclusive content. Right.
right, like they're not making original content for the Shorts channel. We're making highlights for people to see and then go to the actual channel. I do wish that the Trash Taste were doing the shorts on say like their highlights channel or something, because like they have their main channel and then a highlights channel, and I wish that the clips or the shorts were uploaded to the highlights channel, but that's just not how they wanted to do it, which
Mhm.
is just like, all right, fine by me. I can't really put my foot down. It's not like I've been working with them for
You're
years.
object. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's how most like different content creators, at least from my experience, see it, as that you're advertising this. Like they're advertising themselves with the TikToks and the shorts. I know for Charlie, Slimesicle, I don't run his clips or his TikTok, but I know that he does a mixture of original content for shorts and TikToks,
Mhm.
and then he'll have highlights from like either his streams or his videos or him being in other videos. Like I remember seeing one where it was a clip from fucking Tommy's channel that
Uh-huh.
they just made into a slime short because it was him in
Right.
the video.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So it's a lot more like that. Like that's how certain people see it as, is that it's advertising their content to people who may not know it.
Right. So if you don't mind me slipping in what Socks and our team does for shorts, because we also produce shorts.
Yeah.
Essentially, the way that it works on the React channel, because Socks has several channels, React channel being the one that I am associated with and edit for. But the way that we go about it is the React content is still exclusive to the React YouTube channel, but we do exclusive short react videos, if you want to call them that, where he reacts to much shorter clips that are a lot more digestible and loopable, and most importantly, discoverable. So that way it's the same style of content that he's putting out there that's on, the main channel is like full videos. But if someone subscribes to the shorts channel, sorry, the shorts, because of the react, like they enjoyed the content of the short because of the react style and stuff like that, they're gonna just as much enjoy a full video of the reacts if they subscribe. So it's the same style, exclusive content, and it's on the same channel. So it's promoting that channel. They don't have to go anywhere else to subscribe to whatever is being advertised. It's the same channel. And they are taking advantage of like both what Sam says and what you're saying. They're putting exclusive content on the channel, or excuse me, in the shorts, but it's on the same channel. So no extra work needs to be done. And I think that's really smart. Every time that we post a short and then follow it with an upload the next day, like a full length video upload, it pops off. So like we're doing better now interjecting shorts in between our uploads than we were before that. So we're definitely running with that method for now. It may change in the future. Who knows how it's going to be 6 months from now? But we have definitely found a good formula. Obviously it's going to be different for everybody, but that's what works for us. And at the end of the day, it's just going to boil down to what type of content you're advertising.
Yeah, I definitely fully agree with that. Especially, I can't really talk on it much, and I don't think either of us really have the full
Authority.
knowledge to be talking about it. Yeah, that's sort of how, like, at least from my understanding, how live streams on YouTube also works. Is if you do it in combination with like a video,
Mm-hmm.
it usually really helps out. Like I know for Ludwig, like he'll stream and then be like, "Yep, I'm putting out a video like right after this stream ends. Go check it out."
Mm-hmm. Or vice versa, right?
Yeah, and that video will just do fucking insane.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
that stream will do fucking insane.
Right. Because he'll be hot off the heels of 20K viewers, and then they just drop into a video. And it's like,
Right.
oh, that's awesome. The first 3 minutes of upload, I've got 30K views.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to digest with shorts and TikToks, but I definitely think it'll be interesting from a spectator's point of view as to where it'll go in the next 5 years. So just buckle up, editors. So we've known each other for several years now, and it really doesn't feel like it. But I generally don't take the time to reminisce on old work things, but because you're a guest on the podcast now, do you happen to remember how we might have met in the first place? It's a bit fuzzy for me.
You followed me on twitter.com and I was like, eh, Bob Animal Crossing.
That's right. At the time, I was using Bob from Animal Crossing as a profile picture. It's not that different now, but
Yeah, it was before you had your OC variant, you know.
hmm
Or your like your own little guy over there on the fucking desk. I see you over there. I
Hey,
see
it's
you
me.
there. I'm on the couch. But yeah, no. You follow me on Twitter. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, well, that's weird.
Oh, that's a
Why,
cool editor.
who is why? Yeah, well, I was like, okay, Bob, neat. Oh, they're followed by Cyrenek, who is in like a meme editor. I personally really enjoyed, especially in like my younger years.
Yeah, shout
I
out
enjoyed a
Cernak.
lot of his edits. I'm like, oh, why he's followed by Cyrenek? That's weird. And I check it out, and at the time you were still editing for Noel. I was like, holy shit, who is this guy? Who is this fucking dude? Why is he following me? Where did you come from? And it wouldn't be until I dropped by one of your streams.
Oh Lord.
I forget what. Yeah, I forget what you were doing. You're doing something, and I was like talking in the chat with you and stuff.
hmm
That was initially how we started talking, was because like I talked in your stream, and then like I responded to a bunch of your tweets, and then like we started talking in DM, and then like a friendship just sort of naturally
Bloomed,
started.
right? Yeah.
But then eventually I asked you, I was like, why did you follow me on Twitter? And you're like, oh, you were one of Eddie's editors, and I wanted to follow you. I was like, you know Eddie? And you're like, yeah, I edited one video for him. I was like, what? And I like had to go to the channel because I was like, what the fuck? Because that was about the point where I was like starting to do other client work other than Eddie.
Uh-huh.
Because like I really enjoyed Eddie. Like working with Eddie. He is
Sure.
awesome. He's such a cool dude. And
We
he's
love the
also
Senate
like
Eddie.
well, yeah, he was a editor in like his own, like not his own editing house, but like he was in an editor house, like a proper company. I mean,
Right, right.
and such before he did YouTube content. So he knows like a lot of like how it feels to be like freelance and such. But like at the time, like I was transitioning out of being like a full time editor, so I was like, what? When did you edit for Eddie? And then I found out you just did like the one off like Resident Evil video.
Yeah, the Resident Evil 2 playthrough, that was so fun.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense because I was doing most of his Hearthstone content at the time.
Ah,
I was
okay.
the Hearthstone editor.
God rest your soul.
I was like, "Oh my god, why did you do that?" And do you remember why you did that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story. The main reason that I decided to reach out to Lieutenant Eddie at the time, this was many years ago, but at the time, my girlfriend, we're obviously no longer together, but at the time, she was very much a huge fan of Lieutenant Eddie and had followed his content since practically the beginning. And she knew I was an editor. And one night, I think she was just teasing me, saying, like, oh, well, you talk a big game with your editing, but, I bet you couldn't edit for, anybody. And it was all, playful banter, but I kind of took it seriously for a moment, and I was like, who do you think I wouldn't be able to edit for? Like, who do you think I wouldn't be able to like emulate? Basically is what I was asking. And she said something along the lines of like, oh, well, it would be kind of interesting, to see you edit for Lieutenant Eddie. And at the time, I had heard the name, but I was a bit unfamiliar with the content. And I looked into it, and I was like, "Oh, Overwatch content. Okay, this is something I could get behind." And I do a little more digging and do a little bit more research, and I say to myself, I didn't say this, out loud to her at the time, but I was like, "This is totally doable." So I spend the next like maybe day or two coming up with like the best way to, not only reach out to Eddie, because at the time he didn't have like really many avenues to like speak to him directly. Like you either had to go through a mod to get a business email or something like that, right? That's how I ended up having to do it. But basically, I put together a little video that was specifically for him, saying like, here's a little demo reel. This is my editing, in your channel style with a little bit of personal flair. This is what I could bring to the team. I don't know if you're looking for editors, but I'd like to throw my hat out there, and with your permission, at least be able to add this to my portfolio. Thanks very much. And he responded to my email like a day later and was like, yo, this is sick. Yeah, let's work something out. And that's literally the story of how I started working with Eddie. As short-lived as it was literally on a whim from a little tease from my girlfriend being like, oh, I bet you couldn't edit for Eddie. And I was like, who's Eddie? This guy? Oh, yeah. All right, Eddie, can I edit a video for you? Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks. Just to prove a point to my girlfriend.
Do you happen to remember which mod you reached out to at the
No,
time?
I do not remember. I do not
That's fair.
remember.
That's fair. Sorry, I'm very close knit with Eddie and all that kind of stuff.
I gotcha. I'm sure if you asked the mod team that was around during that year, if anyone remembers referring an editor to the business email, they might.
His mod team fucking has swapped out like 3 times already. I was part of the OG mod team.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't have been you, obviously, because we would have remembered.
Yeah, no. By that point, I was transitioned to editor.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I remember when I first met Eddie. It was back in high school. It's back in like junior high. I was like 16. For reference, I'm 23 now.
It's a bit ago. Yeah.
It's a little bit ago. I remember I was super into Game Grumps at the time, and I was just like perusing YouTube as you do. And because I was watching so much Game Grumps, I would get recommended like animation stuff, from a bunch of different people.
Right.
And one of them was a guy named Lieutenant Eddie Animations. And I was like, oh my god, he's doing some pretty neat animations for the Go Go Nippon Game Grumps playthrough.
Oh my god.
With all the funny anime girls.
I remember playing that game. Off topic, but I remember playing that game before Game Grumps. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That's an old game. Wow, throwback.
And I always was like, oh, those are funny animations, but I never subbed. And then he did a Keep Talking Nobody Explodes animation using CSGO assets. And at the time, I was super into CSGO. So I was like, damn, CSGO animation, subscribe.
Oh my god.
And I remember literally the next upload after that was him going like, hey, I'm going to do a stream for like the first time ever explaining how to do animation stuff. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go see it because that seems really cool, you know.
Yeah.
And he was gonna stream it during like my free period during high school, so I'm gonna watch it, you know. And I did, and kept like keeping up with his streams as much as I can, you know, because he would stream like maybe once or twice a week. You know, he wasn't streaming like a whole lot. He was like a 12 viewer Andy on Twitch. Then I found out he was really in the CS:GO as well, and I was like, oh my god! And like I enjoyed the aesthetic of like his mascot. It's like
Mhm.
a dude with like little goggles. It's very like it's based on his Metal Gear Online character when
Right.
Metal Gear Online was a
When that
thing.
was relevant, right.
And eventually he got into Overwatch. Like by that point, like I was already like friends with him because like I did like sub games, I was a mod, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember when like Overwatch was first coming out, we were like, damn, that shit looked good.
Yeah. Uh,
You can go to Eddie's gaming channel, Zen Eddie Games, and look at the first few Overwatch videos,
oh
and you'll
man.
hear a 16 to 18-year-old me talking in those videos because I was in like the first like 10 episodes of it, you
That is
know?
awesome.
And if it wasn't because of me randomly subscribing to an animation channel that would eventually blow up as an Overwatch YouTuber, you know, and then you going out on a whim
Right.
to edit for this guy, I would not be sitting here editing this podcast as I
That's
speak.
crazy. Yeah, butterfly effect or whatever you want to call it, but it's crazy how the world works. But
I also wouldn't have my current job, which is editing in general.
right, which
I'd be an
is
engineering student.
kind of wild to think about. Yeah. Man, I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't editing, but that's a whole other jar of worms.
That is a
Man,
whole other jar of worms.
I I think it's really cool how we ended up meeting, because since then we have met so many mutual editing friends that have been so amazing, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have made the bonds that I have made over the last like 2 3 years. They have been like the strongest friendships I have had, period, in my life, which I didn't think I would be saying in my
Aw,
mid 20s. You know what I mean?
aw,
But
this guy.
I'm pretty confident that like our biggest collective contribution to the editing community, like you and I, was ironically not editing related at all, or at least not like directly. But would you want to walk us through how Minecraft brought our like secluded little community together?
Oh God. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where this is going.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we got to talk about the private SMP that was ran for probably like what 2 months at most, a month, which was
About yeah, about
it didn't even have a name. Polite, Ludwig, one of Ludwig's editors. Love
mhm.
Polite, super cool dude.
Can't count how many times he's been shouted out on the podcast.
I know. He spontaneously just made a editor SMP and was just inviting different editor people. And because of you, I'm pretty sure I got in. Because at that time, that was like when, like, the air quote editor council was a thing, where it was like you, Polite, Archie,
Davis.
Larry, and Davis,
Right. Mhm.
and I think Shake as well was part of that. Like you guys had
Mhm.
like this like little council of
And
editors
Prezzo
back
as
in like
well, yeah.
yeah, and Prezzo. It was like it was like back in like 2020. And I remember that
Oh,
like he
man,
made the
yeah.
little private SMP type deal. And because of that, I met so many amazing editors. You know, I met Elodie, who you've had previously on the podcast.
Mhm.
Avery. Avery somehow fucking snuck his way into that SMP. I don't know how,
He
but
was?
god damn
Really?
it.
I don't remember
Yes, he
that.
was. Yes, he was because he lived with me and Elodie. Oh my god, I
That's
love
hilarious.
Avery. I love Avery so much, but he was
Avery's
there.
Avery's goated, honestly. I'll have to have Avery on sometime.
You do. You gotta. And then that's also how like I met Ziggy. That's how I properly met Polite, and so many other editors on that little SMP, and it was super fun, you know.
Mhm.
And then after a while it ended. It was like a modded one too. It was very fun. And then like for a while, for like a year, nobody really talked about it, and then Epic SMP happened, which isn't an editor SMP. That was ran by Modest Cube Trevor. Love that guy. super big inspiration for me. Same thing with Polite and Matt Watson
Right.
made Epic SMP and invited like a bunch of creators from the OG like SMP Live, a bunch of other people from like Alpha Red to Rubber Ross, Jaden Animations, even had like Baby No Money, like the music dude, and oh my god, what's his name? Rav. He's a music person, and a bunch of other people. And this is only notable because at the time I was editing for Krinios, and at the time you were editing for Ted.
That's right. Yeah. So we had another mutual connection.
And you had to, and I remember when day one of Epic SMP happened, both me and you were like, oh boy, here we go.
Here we go.
you know, and we're editing it, you're helping me, I'm helping you. And I remember we started joking about like doing another editor SMP, but like a proper one,
Right.
because like Epic SMP is happening, and we're like, oh, that'd be fun. And that eventually just became like a joke that we would, have back and
Right.
forth on
When's
like
the
Twitter
editor
and
SMP?
DMs. Yeah,
Yeah.
when's the editor SMP? And I wonder if I can find it. I remember Polite even tweeted about it, and then, or no, it was Larry. Was it Larry or Polite? I don't
Who
remember. I
said
think it was
what?
Polite. Who tweeted about doing a when are we gonna do an editor
No, it
SMP?
was Ziggy. It was
It
Ziggy.
was Ziggy. Oh my god.
I
Oh
remember
my god, you're
distinctly it
right.
was Ziggy. Yeah.
Because then I made the little trailer, the little mock-up trailer.
That's right. And then everyone else was like, that sounds awesome. Let's make a trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when me and you and like a handful of other like of the big editors spontaneously over the course of 48 hours made a fucking Minecraft SMP.
It really was spontaneous. I don't think I've ever seen a proper SMP get put together as quickly as that one did.
that that was like so insanely fast. I remember stressing so bad because I was just trying to figure that shit out because I think we wanted to get all the epic SMP mods as well. Like
Right,
oh my god,
right.
what are they even called? It was like a weird
I
construct
yeah,
mod.
I do forget what they're called. We had like three specific mods we were trying to get, but we
It was
couldn't
the same epic SMP ones.
we couldn't find an amazing what is it, client, I guess, to run
Yeah,
them on. We kept
yeah, it
running
was
into
well no, it was
issues.
the finding like a server.
Right, no, that as well. Yeah.
Oh mama.
That is
Oh. Oh.
a bag of
That's a
worms.
sensitive that's a sensitive topic for me.
Yeah, for all of us, man. Like that was nightmarish.
Yeah. But we eventually made this SMP like over the course of like 2 to 3 days. That would be aptly named Control SMP. Fire name. I think it's a fire name.
Yeah,
Control SMP.
dude. I think I came up with that on like it was like late at night, and I was like, bro, and I got out of bed and I just scribbled it down.
Dude, it's so good. I wish it stayed for a little bit longer than it did. We tried launching like a season 2 because it was originally ran by me and you.
Yes,
It was
it
the two of
was.
us.
And then admittedly, I just got really overwhelmed. And this was, I think, prior to me figuring out that I had generalized anxiety disorder,
Yes.
which a lot makes sense now after being diagnosed and medicated and everything. Everything lines up and makes sense. But
Yeah.
after talking to you about it a little bit, and once you said that, like, you know, it's something that you would still be okay with doing, I was like, okay, the ship is yours practically. And I think you did an amazing job with everyone that remained after the, I'll just call it the boredom purge. Like after
Yeah.
72 hours, I feel like anyone that wasn't a little invested in it just kind of like pittered away, which is totally fine. It's natural for an SMP, but
It was actually more like a month.
yeah, well, yeah, the core group that stayed for a while. But I'm talking about, like, how we had droves
Oh,
of
like
like
yeah, yeah,
70,
yeah, yeah.
80 people trying to get in at the same
Yeah, like
time.
day one, like I don't have the VOD anymore, but I remember I was streaming it and we had like
Right.
100 people join like immediately, and I was like, oh my god. And then the server was dying.
The server
And while I was
crashed,
waiting
yeah.
for this, yeah, while I was waiting for the server to be made, I was just streaming myself building a fucking Lego set because I was going fucking
I
insane.
remember that, yeah. You're just trying to remain calm, build Legos. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just building a Lego set because I was just like, well, I wanted to do this on stream, and this is a perfect time as any.
God, yeah. What a day that was. Holy moly.
And then yeah, I mean, me and the mod team at that time then tried to launch like a season 2. We even had like a
Mhm.
little cinematic trailer. We wrote lore for the
Lore.
server, but then it sort of just pittered pattered and then fizzled out, which,
That's okay. It
that's just how it
happens.
is.
Yeah.
But I will say it did eventually help. It very much helped. This is one of my it's both a blessing and a curse, was when you and Polite love you and Polite. I love both of you a lot. But holy moly, you invited so many people to that SMP.
We did. We did. I I remember that it was up for debate whether or not we wanted to make it just private and literally just invite like, a few key people and we cap it at like maybe 30, right? And then it turns out, every editor under the sun wanted to be involved. And, we didn't want to come off as gatekeepy, of course. So we're like, okay, we'll have like a waiting list practically. And sure enough, oh my God, my DMs are permanently altered because of that SMP. If I scroll past a certain date, it's nothing but, hey, I'd like to join the SMP. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot find anything before that because I have to scroll too much. It was literally, you know, just too much to handle, I guess. And
But the
go
but the
ahead.
positive thing about that though
Mhm.
was that it did create it created a community,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, it did.
Because prior to Control SMP, it was mostly just like the big editors, people
Mhm.
like Larry and Archie, people who, were essentially like micro celebrities, like, oh, that's editor Larry, or
Mhm.
oh, that's Archie, oh, that's
D-list
Elodie, you
celebrities.
know, like that's
Yeah, yeah.
Davis, but like
Sure.
they're known editors,
Well
like they're
respected and
editors
yeah.
who work, yeah. There weren't like smaller editors such like, myself, or even, well, you were pretty well known, but like, you
I
know
don't
what I
yeah,
mean.
I have a really weird history with like being quote unquote known. Like if my online presence says anything, I am relatively pretty small, but because I've been doing this for so long, my name has kind of been like whispered throughout the grapevines over the years and like people that I, have never spoken to in my life are like, "Oh, you're editor Keo." And I'm like, "I literally have 3K followers on Twitter. How do you know me?" So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
But I
Like,
guess I guess I mean more people like me, or like Ziggy or Avery,
mhm,
like much smaller editors who aren't like as well known,
sure.
were able to feel welcomed in a community, because
Sure.
like we
Yeah,
were editing for people, and it's like we don't feel alone, essentially. And this community continues to evolve.
it
We
does.
continue to have people that come in and out of it, we continue to welcome in new people, even like outside people who are curious about like what's going on and
Right.
all that kind of stuff.
And I still get DMs to this day like, "Hey, I'm looking to like meet more editor friends. Like, do you have advice on like where I can meet people like that?" I do wish that we did have resources like the SMP again or like a general Discord server that was active for longer than a month maybe.
Yeah.
But editors literally just get too busy. And it's unfortunately just something that happens, but I think you're right in the sense that like at least trying to create a community that lasted as long as it could brought us together long enough to form bonds that we would have never made otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Hell, I mean, fucking like fucking we went to LA together.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah, that's a whole other thing we can talk about.
yeah, like, bro. Yeah, for those who, I mean, I imagine not many people know. Last year, 2021, VidCon was supposed to happen.
Oh god, yeah.
Well, actually, TwitchCon was supposed to happen, and then TwitchCon didn't happen,
Right.
and we were like, oh. And then VidCon was supposed to happen, and a bunch of editors, most notably Larry was like, hey, anybody going to VidCon? And so a
Oh
bunch of
right,
editors
I
were
remember
like,
that tweet, yeah.
hell yeah, let's go to fucking VidCon. All editor meetup in LA, be hype. And as the date grew closer and closer, VidCon got canceled. But a lot of people, myself and Kyo, and a few other select editors, still wanted to go to LA and meet up for a while. And
Right.
so, a relatively small group, it's like 8 of us, went to LA, and 5 of us stayed in one Airbnb that I got for us for a week, and
Hell
then
yeah. Shout
3
out
other editors stayed in
Tizen.
the other Airbnb that was like literally right down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just spent a week in LA just doing shit. And it was me, you, Keo,
Mm-hmm.
Avery Swanson, which, oh my god, as much as I would love to talk about all the shit me and Avery did, because we got there
Oh
3
my
days early,
God, yeah.
we're already pushing this episode.
Hey, it's all good. Take the time you need.
Ziggy,
Mm-hmm.
we love Ziggy Durr. I
Jiggy
love that
Durr.
guy. California local. Who else? Barry Bebop,
Barry Bebop.
funniest guy I ever met. That guy is so fucking funny. I love him.
Recent face reveal, by the way. That was
Yeah, I
crazy. I
know.
can't believe that happened. I thought I was gonna have exclusive access forever, but you know.
Dude, same. I was like, oh my god, it's him. Oh my
It's
god.
him, it's the talking Barry. And then now
Oh
he
my
just puts
god,
on
he got
his little 240p webcam and he's like, hey guys, it's me. I'm like, man,
Oh man, I
LA
still remember
group
him.
stonks down bad, bro.
Yeah, and then the other editors were Rad.
Rad
Rad, as
said, let's
we've
go.
mentioned in the podcast earlier, Rad went,
Ayala.
Ayala, and Pei, the musician.
Mm-hmm.
Ayala was actually a moderator for Control SMP and is also one of the people that helped do a lot of designing for this podcast that you're listening to right now.
Bless. Yeah. Guess who came up with that logo? That's all Ayala, bro. That,
Yeah.
like, she helped me bring that into fruition. It was a mess on a freaking sticky note at one point, and I was like, hey, can you help me put this into like a vector shape? I have no idea what I'm doing. And she was like, I fucking got you, bro. And sure enough, she brought it to fruition and it looks gorgeous. I really think that the podcast logo goes hard and a lot
Dude,
of
the
people
podcast
agree.
show logo is so fucking good. It is so good.
And not to mention that Zaid animated it so beautifully in the intro, and
Oh, that too.
he really knew what to do as far as like how I interpreted what the logo is. So very cool.
Yeah. Also, knock on wood, I really hope that the TwitchCon trip still happens this year. I don't know.
I have no idea if it's gonna happen.
I know. I really want it to happen so bad.
I need money.
So
I
bad.
need so much money.
You will get it. I believe in you.
Thank you. Fingers
I believe
crossed.
in you. But that trip was so awesome. I wish we just had a fucking another podcast to just talk about all the shit that happened on that trip. I
The
cried
LA
over
trip was
pizza.
amazing.
I cried.
Oh
I had
my
a Joker
God.
moment over pizza.
Joker moment.
Dude, do you remember that Joker moment?
I can't remember specifically why it was during the pizza, but
It was the
no, wait, I
last
remember
day.
now.
It was the last day. I have the
Yes.
picture of I won't put it in the podcast because I wanna respect people who don't want to be seen. But I have a picture of everybody sitting on the floor in our Airbnb like it's Christmas morning opening up Taco Bell.
I remember that. Yes, that was beautiful, and everybody was either drunk
All right,
or.
I'm gonna tell a story. I'm gonna tell a story. So
Oh
on the
my
last,
God. Okay.
we have to tell one story. We can't just talk about the
No,
trip
you're
and then
right.
not tell
You're
about
right.
any
You're
of the
right. Okay,
stories.
give them one good story.
So the day that Ayala, Pei, and Rad showed up to our Airbnb the first night, we got pizza. We got Papa John's. Wasn't great, but we just wanted something that everybody could eat. So we got Papa John's, and we're like, okay, whatever. On the last day, we'll order good pizza. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last day comes around, and I think on the last day we went to Disney, right?
The last day that we were allowed to stay the full day in the B&B. Yes.
Right. We went to Disney. So we came home at like 10 or
Huge
11.
regret. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, we come home at like 10 or 11. Yeah, no, it was 11. We come home at 11, and it takes like 15 minutes for the Ayala, Pei, and Rad to like get unwind at their own Airbnb and then walk over. It's like a 5-minute walk.
Right.
And I remember Ayala came first, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Rad and Pei are like doing more stuff at the Airbnb," and we're like, "Okay, cool." And so I remember some time starts to pass, and I'm trying to remember this correctly. We ordered the pizza, No. I remember now. Rad and Pay then show up, and we order the pizza. I consult with Rad because Rad is another local New Yorker,
Oh,
just like
right.
me.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we're gonna find a good pizza place. And we scroll through Uber Eats for like 5 minutes, like trying to find a good looking pizza place that's not shitty. Cause,
Good luck. It's LA.
gotta have the good pizza. So after that, we eventually find a nice pizza place to order from. For reference, it is 11 like 20 at this point. And we order the pizza, like I pass my phone around for everybody to order. It takes like a couple minutes because everybody's like talking and chilling, having some beers. Old people that can, of age.
Hmm.
Totally everybody there was of age. FBI, please. Um Also, that trip was the first time I ever bought beer.
Really
Side note.
interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't drink it. I don't drink. Anyway, order the pizza, and we're like, okay, cool. Rad and Pay then had to go back to their B&B to get something. And they go, I remember I saw the app on my phone, was like, hey, the pizza's about to be here. I opened the door because we got a knock. Like, before it said it was delivered. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I opened the door, and it's a small little brown bag. I'm like, this isn't a pizza. And I remember I looked up and I saw the Uber like delivery person walking back to their car. And then Barry came over because Barry had a few beers in him. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And like he yelled to the Uber guy going like, hey, this isn't ours. And at this point, Rad and Pay were coming back from their B&B from like getting something. And they saw the Uber driver because they were closer than me and Barry. They saw the Uber driver look to Barry, shrug, turn around, and go to their car and leave. And we were like, okay, what's in the small brown bag? We
Oh
opened the
god.
small brown bag, and it is a singular order of sushi. And we were like, huh, why is there sushi? And we were like, okay, maybe somebody ordered it. Because, like, Ziggy was, like, chilling in one of the bedrooms for a little bit. He was just trying to unwind. So we're like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe, Ziggy ordered it.
Right. Of
10
course.
minutes pass. It's like 11:40 at this point. Ziggy comes out. We're like, hey, did you order this? And he's like, no. And we're like, oh. He's like, did you guys order it? And we're like, no. He's like, can I have it?
Can
We were
I
like,
have
sure.
it?
So we gave it to Ziggy, and he went to go eat it. And then it says, okay, it got delivered. And I'm like, awesome. I go to the door, nothing at the door, gone, nothing. And I'm like, huh, this is weird, because I'm in a bathrobe. I'm like in a little fucking plaid red bathrobe.
I
I'm
remember
like,
that
oh, there's no
bathrobe.
pizza. And then not Rad, Barry got up again, a few more drinks in him this time, going like, what do you mean they didn't deliver the pizza? And like he like rushed out of the house and like started running down the street looking for the pizza. And like I joined him going down the street. So apparently the $150 order of pizza was just delivered to the wrong address. Because it was 8 people, so we got like 2 pies and like a bunch of like other shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nothing. And it's like, okay, awesome, cool. We'll order from, a different place. And by
Yeah.
this
They
point,
refunded
it
you,
is.
right? Like,
Yeah, I did get the refund. Because,
okay.
like, I remember I, like, sat in the corner and I was like, fucking piece of shit, fucking delivered the wrong fucking.
Joker moment, yeah.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not
This isn't the
yet.
Joker moment
Oh,
yet.
monk.
No, the Joker moment was when I went to go order pizza from them Papa John's because they were the only place open at 11:45 at night.
Right.
And, I get everybody's orders after like 5-10 minutes. I hit the order button. It's like 11:50. 5 minutes pass. I checked on the order because I'm paranoid. Order canceled. Papa John's closes at midnight.
Very cool, Papa John's. Thank you.
And then that is when I had my Joker moment because I was just sitting in the corner of the room, just crisscross applesauce, like ready to fucking go insane. I'll
Yeah,
never
we were
forget.
just like, what are we gonna eat, bro?
Yeah, I'll never forget my little fucking 5'9", 5'10" ass just sitting there, and Pay 6'4", the giant, walks over and just crouches down. He's like, "Hey Ben, you alright?" I'm like, "No."
No.
He's like, "Let's figure this out." And so me and him tried to figure out what to get everybody, and we eventually decided on Taco Bell. Oh my god, trying to get everybody's order for that was so grueling because it took
We
like
made it work,
20
man.
minutes.
We made
It
it
took
work.
20 minutes to get everybody's order for Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And then we ordered. This is gonna be the hottest take of the podcast for this episode. I don't like tacos, so I ordered McDonald's for myself while everybody else had tacos.
I do remember that.
Um, and then eventually, after some time, my McDonald's came in first. I got it. I started eating it. 10 minutes later, the Taco Bell came in like a fucking garbage bag,
I remember that.
and we bring it in, and that's when the Christmas like story fucking little Christmas picture happened where everybody's sitting on the floor, just going through all the fucking 12 bags of like tacos and burritos.
I don't even know if everybody got their order.
I was about to say, we go through all the bags, half the orders are wrong.
Hell yeah. You gotta love LA.
Like $80 of Taco Bell, and half of it is just wrong. And I just was so defeated.
Yeah, everyone was ready to go home, bro.
I was sat in the other corner with my little fucking wimpy McDonald's hamburger, just like taking little bites out of it, just going like, well, hope everybody had fun. Oh,
and
my
that
God.
was, again, that was like at 11, 12 at night. And we all had flights in the morning. Oh
Yes.
my God, bro.
We all
What a
did have flights
nightmare.
in the morning. To be fair, I did get my karma. Karma paid me back in the fact that Slimesicle messaged me the next morning going like, hey, I need somebody to edit for me in my channel. Can you do that? Or do you know somebody? And I was
That's
like,
true.
I can do that.
True.
So I got repaid by the world.
And then Avery got a job with me, working with Socks.
You just started the job with Socks when we went to LA.
Literally just started, yeah. I wasn't even sure if it was going to take off because I was like, okay, I've secured the job. I haven't started yet. Let's see how it works.
I know, I remember that. Oh,
I was so
dude.
nervous.
And you know what? Here you are.
Here I am. Here we are, bro.
Yeah, man.
A lot has happened since LA. That's crazy to think about. But anyway, yeah, for people uninterested, for people that are unfamiliar with our circle of editor friends, the story might have been a little dragged on, but you know what? This podcast isn't for you. It's for us today, okay? It's for us, for the boys.
You know what? It was a bunch of editors involved, okay?
That's what counts. Exactly.
All those editors in that house, in that Airbnb on that trip, edit for pretty notable people. You know what? I'll go down the list of who
go for
everybody edits for. Me, now edits for Slimesicle, Just Roll With It at the time, and now Trash Taste. Avery edits for Socks, Wild Spartans, I Am Translator, which is famous voice actor man I can't remember the name of. Do you remember his name?
Jonah.
Voice actor?
Yeah.
Jonah Scott, who voice acts in a bunch of cool stuff. And Avery edits for somebody else, but I'm not remembering it off the top of my head. But like, you know, he also edits for Socks. You edit for Socks, you know, primarily.
Socks for one.
Barry Bebop is like the main editor for Doug, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
He's like the main editor.
As far as I'm aware.
Ayala is a designer, you know, for multiple different people, but she also primarily edits for Puns of Dream SMP. Rad TikTok edits for Ludwig and The Yard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Pay the Musician, who edits for a handful of smaller creators and has worked with people like, you know, Cutie Cinderella and Ludwig and Atrioc, and now is currently editing for a good friend of mine, Bisley Channel, and also for Joko. Like,
yeah, so all around, it was pretty cracked, honestly.
It was a stacked trip, even though it was still just 8 of us, you know? Oh, and Ziggy edits for Josh and...
Yeah, I was going to say, aren't we forgetting Ziggy?
Yeah, Ziggy edits for Josh, and he edits for somebody else that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Oh, he edits for Eddie. He edits for Eddie right now.
Pug? Yeah, that trip was definitely much needed. Like, work-life balance played a huge factor in getting all the editors out to the West Coast to spend some time together. Because, like, a lot of us were stressing hard that year over work-related stuff, right? I guess moving a bit into that topic, I mean, you've had some hard-learned lessons, really, about work ethics and stuff yourself, haven't you?
Oh, my God. Dude, yeah. Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, do you want to get into that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I sort of briefly touched on it earlier when I was talking about like my previous clients, but like there was a period in time where I was editing for like 6 people at once, and
Hmm.
holy shit, that was very stressful.
I rarely got to speak to you during that time.
Oh yeah, dude, people barely speak to me now, and I have like half the amount of clients than I did then. You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god, fuck, man. Who was I editing for at that time? I was
Yeah, do you
editing for
remember?
technically Eddie. I was still editing for Eddie at the time. This was like a year and a half ago for reference. So this was like early 2021.
Okay.
Lieutenant Eddie, James Key, Josh, Ultrive, Krinios, and then I was also editing for a guy named Segi VA. Really cool dude. I love Segi. Do you know Segi?
Yeah, I do know Segi. Segi
Segi's
has
super cool.
rated me a few times on stream. We talked to each other in each other's Twitch chat. We we became mutuals through Twitch first more than anything, which is
Really?
funny. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Segi's such a homie. I fucking love that guy. But yeah, I was editing for him as well because he wanted me to come on as like a main editor. But then eventually like financial stuff like came up and like
yeah. Of course,
it couldn't really work out.
happens.
But
Yeah,
like I was working for like all those different people at that time. And then shortly after I started working for Just Roll With It. And like that was the job where I was like, okay, I have to downsize. Like this is too much. And that's a thing that I think a lot of editors, big or small, sort of struggle with is that, you don't have to do everything that's given to you.
right,
Because I feel like a lot of us feel that because this isn't like a quote unquote real job, we have to overachieve or overwork in order to compensate for that like stigma that is brought upon, this kind of job.
hmm,
And I know for myself included, I mean at the time I was also doing it because it's like I needed the money to be able to like sufficiently live.
yeah, yeah,
So, but I know a lot of people like struggle with that. And when I started working for Just Roll With It, that was when I started to realize like I need to be able to take into account my own self worth, both in my skill and my mental well being. Cause like I need to be able to go to a client and say, hey, I have this set skills. I deserve this and that. Cause like a lot of people, they undersell themselves for better or worse. And more
right,
often than not, it's for worse, and that sucks. You shouldn't undersell what you can do. Like if you can do shit, do that. Obviously, a lot of people worry that like, they're going to come off as like egotistical or that like they're like really flaunting themselves and all that, but like you need to be able to look out for yourself because you are the most important person in your own life.
yeah,
You really really got to remember that,
yeah.
as
No,
much as like
exactly.
you may devote yourself to like a loved one or a family member or a friend, going like this is the most important person in your life. No, you are the most important person in your life.
Right.
If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. And the reason I bring that up is because if you're doing your job and you're just working yourself to the bone where you get burnt out and mentally exhausted and potentially even depressed, you got to be able to step back and be like, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't all right. And
Right.
be able
Being
to
able
try
to
and figure
identify
something
that
out.
is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people struggle with that. I struggled with that. And like I said, with Just Roll With It, I was able to finally see it because like this was like a major job compared to most other stuff I was doing. And I was finally able to like go to certain people and just be like, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to do work anymore." Which is
Right.
a
Yeah.
really scary thing to say to somebody
It
because a lot of the
is.
time we associate that as like cutting ties.
Right.
But like it's not. You're just doing something else now. It doesn't mean that you can't come back to it later. And
Yeah.
if that content creator completely cuts you off, then you probably shouldn't be working for them.
Then fuck that person. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
If I can just throw in a quick little nice thing that a creator did for me once. By no means am I implying that people can win me over with free stuff, but I remember it had been like several months since I had done any work with Ted, and Ted had reached out to me through DMs, and I was like, "Oh, what's up? Is he like looking for like other editors? Maybe he's asking me, what like if I know anybody that's looking for work, stuff like that." No, he just wanted to know what my size was because he was going to send me some free merch from his new merch line. And I hadn't worked with him in like half a year at that point, and I thought it was just like the sweetest thing. So I creators that like go out of their way to like make their team and even their former team feel appreciated really have my utmost respect. So yeah, shout out Ted again. Ted's amazing, and I was lucky to work with him at all, honestly.
Charlie, send me free merch if you're listening to this right now.
Oh
Ooh,
my
you want to send
god.
me free merch? Ooh. No, but I've had creators do that for me in the past. Like James Key and Joe Cat have actually sent me stuff before, and it's super sweet. Especially Joe, because Joe like sent me like one of his little mascot plushies, and it's just something
Okay,
that like
yeah.
sits on my desk. And like I don't work
Yeah.
with Joe Cat a whole lot, Like I've worked with him on 2 major projects, and that's it.
Hey, Socks, where's my free merch, bro?
Where's my free merch?
Where's my merch?
No, but it is really nice, and it's very
Yeah, it's
reassuring.
just thoughtful. Yeah.
We stress out a lot. I mean, I still stress out
We
about trash
do.
taste,
Yes.
like on if
Yes.
they like me. And then Connor came to me and was like, "Hey, you want to work with me?" And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I
Like I
think that's
still
a good sign.
like even though that like I would say I feel like that I'm moderately successful. I still stress about that kind of stuff. I still
Yeah,
stress if
yeah.
like whoever I'm working with likes me or if I'm still doing a good enough job. And
Yeah.
you got to be able to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You got to be able to reassure yourself that hey, you're doing good and you're doing what you can
Yeah.
because
I
that's just how it is.
I highly agree. And I think that having a community that surrounds you and reinforces the idea that you deserve a break, you have to take care of your mental so that you can do your work, and people to remind you essentially of what's really important. I think that's priceless, and I think that's probably the most important aspect when searching for a community to kind of settle into a niche of, is making sure that it's supportive of your mental health first and foremost, if that makes sense, especially if
Yeah.
it's a work related community, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
there are a lot of communities that I'm certain are, just pushing each other, grind set, grind set, grind set. And, people get burnout and people lose interest in things that they used to love. And nobody wants that. So I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that's why, surrounding yourself with people that know that mental health should be a priority above all else is very important.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little TED talk there. I mean, I'm
Ted
glad that
Nevison
we
talk.
yeah, that's my Ted Nivison talk. I'm glad that like we've both had the time to like, grow from our previous mental health ignorance and stuff, and like how it affected our daily workflows, and I think we've both benefited pretty greatly from it. When you do find spare time for yourself, right? How do you typically find yourself spending it? Like, how do you? I'm essentially just asking you how you spend your spare time, but it feels like you have to be ultra selective when you're as busy as we are, and we don't get a lot of spare time. So we have to think carefully about what we're
Yeah.
wanting to do. Like right now, right? Like, I
Oh
could
yeah.
be catching up on work. I could be getting ahead, but
True.
instead, I am wanting to, provide a little insight to other editors and have some fun talking with my friends. So I chose to record a podcast tonight. Like
Yeah.
little things like that, Like how do you spend your spare time and how do you decide what you're gonna do?
Oh, I work in my spare time.
Uh,
No, I know especially recently as we're recording this, I've been very fucking busy.
mhm.
Um, just roll with it, recording in person stuff and sending it to me fucking via helicopter, fucking mailing me shit. But I mean, during my spare time, especially when I was younger, I would write a lot. I was very much into writing because I'm not really
Okay.
an artist. Can't really draw as much as I would want to.
Mhm.
So I would just write. I would write little funny stories about funny original characters and all that kind of stuff. And
Okay, cool.
actually, speaking of, just roll with it. They sparked my interest in D&D and how I could use my writings with D&D, and I was like, my god,
Yes.
I can fucking infect people with like my fucking little silly stories through D&D. This is perfect. I'm going to literally pollute the minds of the youth with
Oh
my
my
fucking
god.
stupid stories. And so for a while, I actually ran two D&D games in private with two different friend groups. One of them actually being some of the people from the LA trip. Ayala being part of the group. Goo, who does all the beautiful art on this podcast, was also part of it.
Yes, shut up, Goo Bear
Goo
again.
Bear. Yeah, and a bunch of other people, including your friend Forgiven, who's also my friend.
Shut up, Forgiven.
Shout out Forgiven. And
I'm making editor Ben put up so many Twitter bios. I'm so sorry.
yeah. Yeah.
just just cut to editor Ben being like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I can't really do that joke on this podcast, but but yeah, those games though are on hiatus at the moment because, multiple different people, can't make the time at the moment, myself
Sure.
included. But it was just something that I did do in my spare time. It's nice. It's de-stress. I'm able to share stuff. And at the moment now I just commission people art to draw those characters. That's my most de-stressing. I just look. It's like the fucking meme from Community where it's like the guy looking at the picture and he's like, "Man, I've been looking at this for 6 hours. It's beautiful."
Yeah, absolutely. I love commissioning art myself.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, yeah, and especially doing D&D with my writing has helped with editing for sure. Has definitely helped with editing the Just Roll With It podcast. My
Like
God.
it cycled back into the editing in terms of like knowing how a good story is paced or like
Yeah, 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 yeah. I would hope that after writing for like 5 to 6 years, because I started writing about around the same time I started doing editing.
okay, gotcha.
Like I would hope that after writing for that long, I would have some pretty decent pacing when it comes
Yeah,
to
sure.
telling stories and such. So it definitely
Sure,
helped,
sure.
and I feel like it is paying off. From my knowledge, most of the Just Roll With It community enjoys the podcast that I edit. You know,
Hell
because
yeah.
I edit all the Patreon exclusive content, and everybody over at JoeCat seems to enjoy the D&D campaign that I edited for him as well. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think it's really good and productive, I guess, if anything, that your hobby in your spare time somehow still manages to loop back into being productive for your work. So you have definitely found something good that works for you, and I'm very happy for you, man.
Yeah, because if it's not that, I'm just playing video games.
Same, dude. Same. Well, Tizen, it was absolutely a blast having you on. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, man.
Aw.
Yeah, I wish we could do it every week, honestly, but
Dude, I wish I could be on every week. That would be fucking awesome.
All right. Well, I guess I'll see everybody next time.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.